It's finally time for Articuno's turn for a run through Pokemon Yellow. We've seen Zapdos and Moltres make their attempts with some mixed results, but I really have high hopes for Articuno. I think this is going to be an excellent run. As we get started, make sure to subscribe so you can catch my weekly Pokemon videos and my shorts, and drop a like if you like this video. So Articuno is actually the most defensive of the legendary birds, but that may or may not be a good thing. Its typing is not nearly as good as Zapdos as far as defensive coverage. Like Moltres, it has a 4 times weakness to rock moves, and it is still weak to electric moves, so that doesn't bode well for the first few gyms. However, Articuno starts with an excellent advantage, and that's Ice Beam. It doesn't get Drill Peck like Zapdos does, but Ice Beam is an incredible offensive move. Especially in Gen 1, ice moves have great offensive capabilities, even though defensively, their resistances aren't that great. I do something different as well here. I fight the rival on Route 22. The other two legendary birds don't do this, because this will make it so I am fighting Jolteon. Articuno, though, doesn't want to fight Flareon. Flareon has Flamethrower, and that could be a big issue for Articuno since it has a fire weakness as well. So instead of having a Magneton, which is already kind of a problem, and then also a Flareon, I decided I would rather have a Jolteon and then have the Ninetales, which is less problematic. Besides that, the rest of the early game is a breeze. Because I get the extra levels at the rival, I can just go ahead and skip all the way to the last trainer in Viridian. In Brock's gym, I can actually fight the Light Years trainer as well. Because I have super effective damage, I can take out his 2 Pokemon and get the extra experience there before I fight Brock. Even with that extra experience, I'm going into Brock's fight at a lower level because I did not fight as many trainers in Viridian Forest. But I'm not that worried about it since I have Ice Beam, and I think that's for a good reason. I just can take both of Brock's Pokemon out with one hit. With that, we can make our way through Mount Moon and get to Cerulean City. In Mount Moon, I can pick up Water Gun. I actually didn't realize before this challenge that Articuno can learn both Water Gun and Bubble Beam. I knew it couldn't learn Surf, and I had just kind of thought that it wouldn't learn any water type moves because that just seems a little bit weird for some reason for an ice bird to be able to also shoot water, but I guess it kind of makes sense. They're related elements, and in Gen 1, a lot of the water and ice type Pokemon kind of share a moveset a lot of the time, so I guess in retrospect it makes sense. I think it's not going to be very useful, but it is good to kind of just bulk out the moveset. As we finish off the cave and get to Team Rocket, we can talk a little bit about Articuno. It's definitely the hardest of the 3 to find. I didn't even know about the Seafoam Islands for way too long. I just didn't really explore those areas. There's a lot of water in Kanto, but that's not the last time we see that. I'm looking at you, Hoenn. If you've played the Gen 3 games, you know. As we get to Cerulean City, I realize we're going to have a bad matchup against Misty. We don't have anything that's going to do great damage. Water does resist ice, so Ice Beam's damage is going to be cut in half against Misty. I think we just want a few more levels though before we fight her. So instead I head over to the rival and we can take out his team. And Ice Beam is a great start to this fight because both Sandshrew and Spearow both are weak to it. And that's going to prevent the stat drops, it's going to prevent Sand Attack, it's going to be just really helpful. And of course, like the other birds, all of the regular trainers aren't a problem. And we can get over to pick up Charmander. We're going to name Charmander Voided. Thank you so much Voided for joining the live stream last time. I'll probably be doing more of those in the future, so keep an eye out for that. After we pick up our SS Anne ticket, we can head back to Misty. At this point, I'm level 20 though, so I'm not too worried. I think just the base stats alone are going to be enough to allow Articuno to do some decent damage. I was a little bit worried I would need to resort to my other moves if I ran out of Ice Beam, but actually Articuno does great here. It doesn't really struggle that much, which is kind of a surprise. We're going to head straight over to Vermilion City and go to the SS Anne to get Rest, because I feel like it's going to be very important for Articuno later. Rest can really help us make the most of our defensive stats, as well as just make some fights a little bit more consistent. The rival is once again a breeze. That ice typing is so good offensively that his team just isn't really a problem. We stop in the captain's quarters to read a few books a bunch of times accidentally and then talk to him and get cut. And with that we can head over to Surge. I was kind of doubting if this was a good idea. Articuno does have good damage with Ice Beam though, and I feel like if we get lucky, we're going to be fine. Surge doesn't have good AI, so he's not going to know that he needs to use Thunderbolt. And no surprise, he isn't great today. That's often the case for him, unfortunately. After the gym, we're going to stop and pick up Squirtle, which we will name James after James Hayes 3070. Thank you so much for the support in the comments. That will be it for today. I will be using Fly on Articuno, so we're not going to get any other subscribers today, but make sure to get subscribed and get in the comments if you want to see your name pop up here at some point. I'd love to see it. In Rock Tunnel, the biggest hurdle is actually the Slowpokes because they have really good defense. I didn't expect them to be a problem at all, but I was surprised. And then I randomly run into a hiker that I was not expecting to be a problem, and then I get a Gen 1 miss and I get hit by self-destruct. There was a risk there. I almost got my first reset against this random hiker I didn't mean to fight. But with that, we can actually get to the self-destructing hiker, who, if I don't get a Gen 1 miss, should be a piece of cake. And luckily, Articuno has recovered and doesn't have a problem here at all. And that brings us to our mid-game errands. This part of the game is just a lot of trying to pick up items that I sometimes struggle to find. Just walking back and forth, mashing the Turbo A, just trying to find it. I must have just missed it somehow like 3 times. Just like I missed where Articuno was for the longest time. Honestly though, doesn't it feel like the most like mysterious and kind of mystical of all of the legendary birds? Zapdos feels powerful and like it would make a grand entrance at every moment it could. Articuno seems more serene. I think that's some good design elements though, to kind of make it feel more ice type as well. Whereas the electric type can be really synonymous with like energy and like, you know, bursting onto the scene. I think that was very intentional on part of the design. We make it over to pick up Fly and we do add that to our moveset right away. So we do still have Peck just for a little bit of extra damage and Bubble Beam just in case we want the extra PP. But Ice Beam is definitely our main go-to for this playthrough. And with Fly, we can go over to fight the rival. His team now has a Shelter, which is going to be the biggest hurdle on his team for a long time. I don't have anything that's going to do great damage against Cloyster, so I'm a little bit worried about that. Otherwise, his team is pretty easy, which is nice to see at this point. We got to go pick up that special flute for Mr. Fuji, and then we can head over to Celadon City to actually fight the gym. The legendary birds all do really well against the grass gym, and I get a bunch of extra training here. However, I'm going to skip some of the training on the bike route because I don't think Articuno is actually going to need it. And for Erica's fight, it really shows its dominance. Ice Beam just takes out all 3 of her Pokemon so quickly. Here I can pick up the rare candy and the PP up on the bike route. I don't actually fight any trainers here at all. I'm going to be using my rare candies a lot earlier in this playthrough, so I don't think I want to spend too much time leveling. I pick up Surf and then we head to Sylph, where I almost go to the rival, but I think this through and I think level 33 is a little bit low. I do fight a couple of trainers here just to get to the healing room and to get over the next level so I can use some rare candies. I want to be about level 38 for this fight for the rival. 40 is pretty good for most Pokemon. The legendaries do very well here at only level 38, maybe even level 35 or 6 they could do it. What's nice is Ninetales does not resist Ice Beam and Sandslash is just a pushover. I am a little bit worried about Cloyster and this fight kind of proves that I should be. It does take a while and it does have Supersonic and Clamp that can really mess me up, keep me trapped, make me do damage to myself. It's not a good situation. Luckily Kadabra with Fly and then Jolteon with Ice Beam aren't that much of a problem yet. Jolteon will do really good damage at the end of the game, but it doesn't have great accuracy and it's at the end of a fight, so I should be able to maybe be in a good enough place so I can tank a shot or just get lucky. We'll kind of see how that goes later. This first Giovanni fight, or really the second if we didn't skip him before the Pokemon Tower, is a real breeze as well. He's going to be so easy for Articuno today because of the typing and Ice Beam, where Zapdos really struggled. And then we can pick up Mimic, and I'm going to teach this right away actually. I feel like Articuno has an almost more limited moveset than the others. Not because necessarily it has less moves, but because the moves that you want to use are so clear. Ice Beam, Fly, Rest, and then Mimic or a setup move just make an excellent combination. When I go to Koga, it's going to be a breeze. I kind of do a little bit of a goofy play here and use Mimic by accident, but then I have Sleep Powder to use against Venomoth. I probably could have used Psychic as well, but I'm not too worried about the damage he can put out. As long as I don't get hit by Toxic, it's really not going to be an issue. It's interesting to me that the Ice typing makes the end game so much easier than any other typing. It makes Giovanni really easy. It makes the league very easy. If you have an answer for the rival and the champion fights at the end of the game, you really don't have to stress that much about the late game fights. It's really the mid game where Ice types struggle the most, especially for Blaine. I am a little worried what Blaine's going to be like. Sabrina isn't really an issue though. I have great physical damage with Fly. I don't have any setup right now, but I have Rest, and it does actually come in handy immediately. I am very glad that I taught this right away. It would have been bad news against Alakazam since I don't outspeed yet. I'm really missing those extra few points of speed that Zapdos gets. But in the end, I can tank enough damage with Rest, and she isn't that scary. But without Rest, it would have been rough. With that, I have to head to Blaine, and I am very scared for this fight. He has super effective damage against Articuno and Fire Blast, which are huge. So before I go to him, I actually go back to the power plant to get another rare candy. This is just in case I really struggle against him. I'm planning on using a few rare candies already, but I might have to use all of them. We'll have to see how that goes. Ice Beam at least is not resisted by any fire types, so at least my damage will be good. For my first attempt, I used 5 rare candies, and this gives me to level 48, which is a pretty good spot to fight Blaine for a legendary. I actually get so lucky, and I don't even take a single point of damage in this fight. Blaine usually is pretty good in yellow, but he's definitely a disappointment, much like his red and blue days, unfortunately. With that, we only have one gym challenge left, and it should be an actually easy one. I don't even use any rare candies or anything, even though I'm level 49, which is kind of an awkward level. But I can basically one-hit every single member of his team. I even get a couple of crits in there just for like amazing luck. So I don't even get hit there either. Articuno is on a roll. It's incredible. It definitely looks like it's going to place as the best legendary bird of the 3. Granted, I do love Zapdos and its learn set is great, but there's some typings in the late game that just don't suit it very well. Back to the rival fight, we can take out Sandslash and execute very quickly. Ninetales has only Ember and not Flamethrower or Fire Blast, which is awesome. It doesn't have Fire Spin either, which could be an issue with Flareon. It has low accuracy, so not probably that scary, but you know, it's still an issue. Cloyster's definitely the one that slows us down the most. It takes many hits to take it down, and honestly, Ice Beam is actually the best answer because Cloyster has the highest defense in all of Gen 1. So Fly, while it is not resisted, does just pitiful damage, and it takes 2 turns, which allows withdraw, which we don't want to have happen, obviously, on Cloyster. After which, Kadabra is pretty easy, and Jolteon, as long as it doesn't deal huge damage with Thunder, isn't a problem. After the rival, we make a little bit of a victory lap by accident by hopping over the bottom barrier. Oops, that's just my bad driving. We can finally maybe we can get to League. There we go. With that, we can start getting prepared for Lorelei. One important thing is to make sure that you have enough elixirs and healing items for the League, because you're going to need to make sure that you are going to every battle 100% when you're doing a solo run. For Lorelei, Dugong isn't that big of a problem. It mostly is just going to be pretty sleepy and rest a lot. Cloyster definitely becomes more of a problem. As I start this fight, I realize Cloyster can confuse me and do a lot of damage actually, and I actually panic and just steal Supersonic with Mimic, which is definitely not what I should have done. It was just bad play on my part, which unfortunately leads to the first reset of the run on Lorelei, of all places, but I guess Cloyster really is a problem for Articuno. If I had something decent I could steal with Mimic, it really wouldn't be that bad, but Dugong just has a bad learn set. I mean, Aurora Beam is not going to help, Takedown isn't going to help, Bubble Beam? Really? At this point, not great. I guess there's not really much better water moves besides Hydro Pump, kind of, but it has bad accuracy. Cloyster, it just comes down to just a waiting game using rest or just kind of slowly whittling it down. There's not really a quick way to deal with it. Luckily, on my second try, we get past and we get to Slowbro, and I can set up Amnesia. It does get really close a couple of times. Luckily, we don't get taken down. We have plenty of time to heal and then start hitting back with Ice Beam, even though it's also now set up, so it doesn't do a ton of damage. But then we get the freeze. I should actually throw in a counter here at this point in the playthrough of how many freezes we get in the Elite Four, because there's only a 10% chance. We'll have to see how many we can get. With full setup, Lapras does doubly resist my Ice Beam, ends up working out. Bruno, though, is even more of a joke today. I have the perfect setup, flying and ice. I guess fighting moves could actually deal decent damage, but Ice Beam just makes this so easy. Agatha will be a very similar tactic as well as the previous birds. I'm going to steal Substitute, and then I just use Ice Beam through. I even have Rest just to get my health back up and to prevent statuses like being paralyzed. So even though my speed is still cut, in Gen 1, if you get paralyzed and then heal it, unless you use Agility or an X speed, your speed will stay lowered, even if you're not paralyzed anymore. But with Rest and the Substitute, it doesn't really matter that much, and we can take out that last Gengar. Lance, unfortunately, is kind of not any better than Bruno. Ice Beam just really makes his team so weak. Flying and Dragon types both weak to Ice Beam. Articuno just stomps all over him. And at this point, I can get to the champion with only one reset at 52 minutes into the game. This is definitely looking really good. There is potential for Articuno to be under 55 minutes just on this run alone. And with practice, I feel like Articuno could even get under 50 minutes. It's an incredible Pokemon with a really great starting learn set, and without any really big weaknesses in the late game, it's really solid. On the Champions team though, I have two main concerns, Cloyster and Jolteon. And I think I made a huge mistake. Back in the Lance fight, I had the option to learn Agility, and I did not take it. I figured that Fly against Exeggutor or for Alakazam was more important than Agility, and I wanted Mimic for Earthquake. I should have realized I only needed one of those two things. I could use Earthquake in the place of Fly for Alakazam, and I could use Ice Beam for Exeggutor. I should have taken it. I didn't think I needed it, and that was a big mistake. In this fight, Cloyster takes forever, and I have to use Rest to just make it through to the Ninetales. At this point, Ninetales only has Fire Spin as its main move, so it can trap me, but it can't just do a ton of damage all at once. So if I time it correctly, I can get through this fight and have decent health for Jolteon. I have Earthquake now because I stole it from Sandslash, but this is where things go south real quick. I get hit by thunder right away in this first fight, which was lucky. I mean, he has a 30% chance to miss, so it's not guaranteed that he's going to hit that, but I thought it would do less than that. I did not expect Jolteon to just wreck Articuno that way. So with that, I don't really have any great options. I have Blizzard that I could reteach as a TM, but no more agility. That's a problem. If I had agility, I could set up on Cloyster while I'm fighting it. That would give me some badge boosts, as well as I'd be able to outspeed the Jolteon and just one hit it with Earthquake, and we would have been done. With that, Articuno would have been under 55 minutes and would have easily been the best legendary bird. However, with that mistake, I don't think it's going to perform that well, especially since the champion fight takes forever with this Cloyster. Cloyster just bleeds time every single time because with Clamp taking multiple turns away, Spike Cannon having multiple hits, and Articuno having to use rest in order to keep the battle going, it unfortunately really makes the time stack up. Ninetales having Fire Spin can add to that too because it can trap me as well, and Confuse Ray, so that's just not a good situation. And after all of that, each time I get to Jolteon, on the second time it paralyzes me, I can't move, and then it hits Thunder, so that's really lucky. It could have missed either of those, but it didn't. The next time after that, I come into low health, and it can just blast me out of the sky with Thunder again. That's 3 times in a row that it hit Thunder without missing, and it got a Thunder Wave in there too that didn't miss. I was kind of banking on the fact that he would miss, so that's probably not a great tactic. On the third attempt, I do something a little bit different. I accidentally knock out Sandslash without thinking and not stealing Earthquake. So then I have Mimic still for Alakazam. I then realize I can steal Kinesis, and that might be the key to get past the Jolteon. I can use Kinesis against Cloyster as well, so it can't stall me quite as much, and I can speed through it a little bit easier because it will miss its attacks instead of getting me trapped. I do still get paralyzed from Jolteon. I survive a Thunder this time. I can hit Kinesis, and with some luck and 2 good Ice Beams and not getting paralyzed, I can finally take him down. But unfortunately, that leaves Articuno with 1 hour, 1 minute, and 53 seconds, just behind Zapdos for total time. Now, I admit, it would have been under 55 minutes if I had used Agility. So with a game time of 3 hours and 35 minutes, Articuno was the second best, but I say it definitely should have been the best. What do you guys think? What's your favorite legendary bird? Make sure to like and subscribe to catch more weekly Pokemon videos. I have some great ones coming up soon. In the meantime, have a wonderful day.